that should have been done a long time ago. Actually, my original order should have never been changed, and I think maybe you wouldn't have had this problem. Maybe.
First off, it was not 3 days ago. Here again is the graphic. If you are able to read numbers, you can see clearly that it says January 22nd. That is 8 days ago, meaning Donald Trump took credit for restoring aviation safety more than a week ago, and yet is now backtracking and claiming it was just a few days ago, and so clearly he didn't have enough time. It's also worth noting that upon taking office, Trump fired the head of the Transportation Security Administration and all members of the Aviation Security Advisory Committee. Seem familiar? Trump fires people in key roles, and then when a crisis inevitably hits and he's purged the government of institutional knowledge on those topics, he finds someone or something unrelated to blame. Does COVID ring a bell? When he fired the NSC's Pandemic Preparedness Unit, same story, different day. That was a point that Pete Buttigieg echoed. He tweeted, "Despicable. As families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, grew air traffic control, and had zero commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. President Trump now oversees the military and the FAA. One of his first acts was to fire and suspend some of the key personnel who helped keep our skies safe. Time for the president to show actual leadership and explain what he will do to prevent this from happening again." There goes Pete asking Donald Trump to do the impossible, take responsibility for his own actions. Now, in reality, there is zero evidence that DEI had literally anything to do with this crash. And yet, when pressed on that, here's what Trump said.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
That it was common sense. Common sense that it had to do with DEI, because if anything goes wrong, it's common sense that a black person or a brown person had to be responsible. It's so obvious in his mind that a white person couldn't possibly have been responsible that even with zero evidence, zero proof, zero backing, zero data, zero information, he's still willing to say it from behind the seal of the president because it's apparently common sense that minorities have to be to blame. Does any of that matter to Trump? Well, here's the answer to that question.
You even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people. You mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference?
Does it comfort their families?
They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you.
Are you blaming your
please.
In other words, no, it doesn't matter to him. The deaths don't matter to him. The American lives lost don't matter to him. All that matters is that he can deflect responsibility and blame it on his enemies. Most leaders will say that the buck stops with them. For Trump, he's only in charge when he can take the credit, but never the blame. And with all of this said, you and I both know that if this happened on Joe Biden's watch or any Democrat's watch, right-wing media and the GOP more broadly would have wasted zero time in blaming it on the left. It would have been nonstop coverage about how this hasn't happened in years, it's incompetence, someone should be fired, agency head should resign, the president should be impeached, let's hold hearings, and more and more and more. And yet now that Trump is in office, guess how many Republicans are taking that posture? Literally none. In fact, right-wing media is doing the opposite. They're also blaming DEI because that's apparently the catch-all boogeyman now that's responsible for anything that goes wrong in the face of professional victim Donald Trump's innocence. This was Maria Bartiromo even before Trump's press conference today.
Is there any reason to believe there was any foul play here?
Well, at this time, you hate to jump to any conclusions. Obviously, we'll look at everything, check all the boxes. I had just taken off from D.C. Before the crash, and of course, it came across my cell phone, and I saw it and was horrified. So prayers go out to all those impacted. But, to your point, I think you have to look at this with eyes wide open, see what happened. Human error, was it some sort of equipment failure? Did DEI play a role in this type of thing? So I think you look at it, you go into it with, again, eyes wide open and make sure that something like this never happens. It's been a number of years since we've had an aircraft collision such as this. And so, again, prayers for all those impacted.
Absolutely.
Meaning the marching orders have gone out. Right-wing media will carry Donald Trump through yet another crisis, shielding him from accountability because only Democrats are responsible for the government when they're in charge, while Republicans are never responsible for the government, even when they control all three branches of government and both houses in Congress. All the credit, none of the blame. Trump took office on this pretense that he was going to be a strong leader, and yet all we're seeing is weakness, victimhood, complaining, and diffusion of responsibility. And this is only the beginning. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.